a knuckle bone onto your skull. It's just, you know what I mean? You're covered in blood. It just makes everything better. That was the day when I started taking all risks all the time and just thinking, you know, life's about taking risks. And as soon as I went there, it changed my life. I never used to listen to my body. Like I said, I had a drive from my passion, and I used to just push the boundaries. I used to sit on a 4-hour chemo drip and go straight to sparring. And it got to the point where the doctors just said, look, you're right, it's either going to turn into cancer or you're just going to possibly end up dying.
As a fighter in bare knuckle, how do you feel when you're in that ring?
You know, I'm looking at my opponent, so all the distractions are gone. And I'm just in a tunnel vision, just thinking, this guy's getting his head taken off. I'm winning this fight. There's no other way but a win. They're just brawlers, and they just love a scrap, where boxing is just an art, and you've got to be top 1% in the world. You've got to be unbelievable.
So who wins then, boxer versus bare knuckle boxer? So today we are joined by bare knuckle boxer Rico Franco. Rico, how are you doing?
I'm really good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, pleasure to be on here.
It's been when I watched the podcast that you'd been on with James English, I saw that and I thought his story is so compelling. Because it was a couple of years old when you did that podcast, I thought I need to bring this story back to YouTube, because I feel like, again, the story you've been through and the things that you've had to face to get to where you are is absolutely unbelievable, mate. So I want to say, first and foremost, congratulations for that. I think it's been unbelievable, your journey. But bare knuckle boxing, I think it's absolutely mental, this sport. Like I'm fascinated by it. How did you get into this?
Obviously, I've been competing mixed martial arts all my life in small gloves. I always loved striking, and bare knuckle was just a thing that attracted me because I love striking. I just wanted to try it with no gloves on, and the opportunity come, and I took the first one, and that was it. I never looked back since, and I just fell in love with it. It's just my style all over. Yeah.
How old were you?
I'd say mid-20s. Yeah, I'd say 26 maybe. So I've been doing it maybe 5-6 years now.
Before that, what were you like as a young lad? Were you prone to having a bit of a scrap on the streets or out, or?
Yeah, I had always had something inside me just wanting to scrap all the time. And obviously, since doing mixed martial arts, it's kind of controlled it, and everything just falls into place. I mean, I've always wanted to just have a tear up. I don't know what it is, just having a feeling when you're sparring. It's just, you're letting off all these endorphins. It's a good feeling. So, you know, after sparring and competing, I just wanted to go every weekend, and it's just my place of just relaxing. It's like a meditation I get from sparring.
What were your family like around you when you were getting into that type of stuff? You know, when you were having like tear-ups and stuff like that, were they trying to challenge you into doing something like this, or was it a case of just that's the way you were?
It was just the way I was, and I mean, my mum always used to support me from no matter what I did. My family did, and they kind of just left me to it. I just did my own thing, and I even just one day I turned around and said I'm off to Thailand for 6 weeks, first ever time, like 12 years ago. They kind of just looked at me like, what do you mean? What for? So I just quit my job and just went to Thailand. That was the day when I started taking all risks all the time and just thinking, you know, life's about taking risks. And as soon as I went there, it changed my life. And yeah, they was always supportive. They used to hate it, but they used to always support me. Yeah, 100%.
I think that's what's crazy about someone like yourself who, 19-year-old, you just up and leave to Thailand. I feel like the type of person who does that is the type of person who can do something like bare knuckle boxing, because ultimately I feel like to be in that mindset, I mean, when I was 19, I definitely wasn't jumping on planes to Thailand and just staying there, and that was the thing. When you made that decision, I know you got obviously support from your mum. What were your friends and that and people like that around you? What was your support network like?
They was all just obviously important as well, but I didn't really. The only friends I really had was in the gym anyway, because I just lived in the gym. I mean, since the last couple of years of school, I was just training. I didn't really go out. I didn't do like normal kids do. I didn't go on the streets. I didn't do this, and I never used to go out drinking. I missed my school prom because I was at the gym. I was just training, and that's just who I was. I kind of had, that was my passion, and the drive that I had for it was just, it was just 100% drive, and it was nothing but that. So I kind of had a vision where I wanted to be. I wanted to compete, and I kept chasing it, and that was it. I just never looked back.
So when you were in Thailand, when did it change for you? When did you think, actually, this is something I want to do? Can you remember, was there a particular point when you thought, actually, I fell in love with this? Like,
I mean, before I went to Thailand, I was competing, But I had a new coach, Danny Mitchell, and he kind of inspired me all my career. I always looked up to Danny. He was like my dad, and everywhere he went, he took me with him, and he just showed me the routes. And he said basically, right, well, let's go to Thailand. We're going to have a team trip out. And ever since that day, I took the risk. I was working on agency at the time, full time, and I just took the risk. I said, I'm gonna leave my job and I'll come back to this job. There's always going to be a job.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I went out, and it was like the weather, the people, the training, just twice a day, 2-3 times a day. And by the end of the 6 weeks, I ended up having a fight out there, a Muay Thai fight. I wasn't even pro at the time. I just took a fight and beat this Russian kid. And when I come back to England, I was just like, nah, this isn't for me. This is not for me. And I said, I want to be training full time. And after I come back from Thailand, it kind of just switched. Like I wanted to go back out. I wanted to live there at the time. And obviously, when I come back, in my head, it was just I wanted to train full time. This is what I want to be. This is where I want to be. It's going to take many years because there's no money in MMA or fighting when you start off, especially mixed martial arts. So I kind of just I had a drive for this passion, and ever since I've just been working for it. And yeah, I think since Thailand, it kind of changed everything where I wanted to be. I just stuck.
With MMA, obviously back then, again, like you said, not being as big as, in terms of money, certainly not where it is now. Everybody wants to jump in the cage. Who did you look up to then? When you said, it's going to take a lot of work to get to where I want to be, did you look at anyone in particular? Yo, what's happening, people? If you are liking the episode so far, make sure you click the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
It was my coach, Danny Mitchell, yeah. I'd say Danny's been the biggest inspiration. He's basically self-taught. Danny Mitchell, he's self-taught from, like, when he was a kid. He had loads of kickboxing, taekwondo fights. He actually started in his shed, just coaching people, learning off YouTube, going to seminars, teaching people when he was young. He's never had a job in his life. He's just hustled all his life, and he's made the UFC on his own. And that's
unbelievable.
To be fair, it was a crazy story. Like, listen, he's got some crazy stories, and he's just a positive guy to be around. And he's taught me a lot. Do you know what I mean? He's taught me a lot about life in general, not just about fighting, but just in life as well, just from hanging around with him. So, yeah, I'll never forget what Danny's done for me. I've looked up to him all my life, and he's been the main person I'd say I've looked up to and trying to be like. He's just trained all his life. He runs a gym. So, like, for me, when I quit my jobs, I started training full time. Now I've got my own gym. It's kind of what Danny's done. And he's got a massive gym in Leeds, AVT, and he's got loads of fighters, travels the world, just lives the dream, does what he loves doing.
Unbelievable that. Like, with the MMA, when did you see that it was going to be kind of the end of the road for the MMA? How far did you go with that before you got into Bareknuckle?
The end of the road was basically when I had my bowels removed. I had surgery, major surgeries, and I couldn't do mixed martial arts anymore. I mean, I definitely will try in the future, but it was just due to illness. And since I still wanted to compete in mixed martial arts, but when I had a few bare knuckle fights, I won a prize fighter tournament. I think I was like 5-6-0. I beat Jimmy Sweeney, and then I was still doing a bit of MMA at the time. But I really wanted to concentrate on bare knuckle because I was at the highest point in my career. Mm-hmm. But I still had them visions of fighting in UFC, fighting on Bellator, and those talks of me going on Bellator as well. I was trying to compete on there and some big shows, but obviously I had life-changing surgery, so that changed everything. And I believe everything happens for a reason, and it's happened for a reason. That's where I am now.
I think you mentioned there about, getting your bowels removed, and you just like kind of slipped that in as if like, well, when I got my bowels removed. But I think, there's a bigger story there, and I think the listener or viewer will want to hear that. Not every person, especially not in this kind of discipline, gets the bowels removed, and certainly if they do, they don't want to carry on doing it. Can you talk a little bit about that and what led up to getting your bowels removed? Yeah,
so I suffered with ulcerative colitis. It's a IBD. It's a chronic illness, severe, like autoimmune disease as well. So basically, it affects the whole immune system, your whole body. And I've suffered for about 9 years ever since my mum passed away, that's when it came on more. So I think it's due more to stress, and obviously a lot of high intensity training as well. I never used to listen to my body. Like I said, I had a drive for my passion, and I used to just push the boundaries. So I never used to listen to my body. I used to sit on a 4-hour chemo drip and go straight to sparring. Like, that's the sort of mindset I had for training, and I suffered for that long, and all these medications and treatments, none of them worked for years. I ended up getting rushed into hospital like multiple times. My first treatment, I ended up getting treated for an heart attack because I thought I was having an heart attack, and it wasn't. I was just allergic to the treatment. So all these treatments I was allergic to, nothing ever agreed with me. So after many years, I kind of went into remission after about 7-8 years, and I kind of had it under control a little bit. And that was when I was in the prize fighter final. I ended up winning the whole final, beating Jimmy Sweeney. So I had 4 bare knuckle fights in a year in remission, beat Jimmy Sweeney, and I was at the highest point in my career. And then actually lockdown happened. I was all in lockdown, and my stomach started turning again. I started doing a lot of training. Never used to listen to my body. I used to push the boundaries again, losing a lot of blood. Thing is, you was always fatigued as well with this illness. Like, you look fine on the outside, but internally, you're just very ill. And like I said, I never used to listen, just carry it on. And it got to the point where the doctors just said, look, you're right, it's either going to turn into cancer or it's going to rupture inside, and you'll possibly end up dying. So I left it for, they said this a year before I had surgery. I kept on leaving it because the last thing I wanted was my bowels removed, to have a bag on my stomach, so like my intestine hanging out my stomach. So kind of left it and did everything I could. Lockdown happened. I lost about 10 kilo trying to sort my diet out, thinking what it was, but everyone's different. All the diets are different. NHS didn't really do much. Like, it was lockdown at the point. I couldn't go to hospital. So I ended up getting rushed into A&E multiple times, saying, look, you need surgery, like, right now. And I just kept on leaving it, and I thought, let me just come out of hospital for a couple of weeks, let me function it. Because the last time I went to hospital, they said, look, you need surgery now, like, to remove your bowels. And it kind of just hit me. I was like, I need surgery. Because I never used to, like, believe in it. I used to think, I'll just leave it. I'm not having surgery. And then when the doctor said, look, you're going to die if you don't have it, I didn't have a choice. And lockdown happened. I ended up going to Nottingham. No one could come visit in hospital or anything, so I was in a bad place. So, yeah, I didn't have a choice really. I'd come home for 2 weeks, kind of accepted it. I was in a bad place for a bit, and then with good people around me, Danny, my coach John, my partner, my family, my brother, everyone was just saying, look, things are going to be good. We can get a groin guard, and we can look at competing again. Because surgeon said to me, we're going to have this surgery, and first thing I said was, can I compete in boxing? And he was just like, he just laughed at me and looked at me. He's like, no, you're never going to be competing boxing. You can't take a punch to the stomach. So I kind of, like, as soon as he said that, when someone says you can't do something, it just hits me, and like, I'll show you and I'll do it. So I ended up having surgery, and I kind of just writing notes. I was doing a lot of research on food, a lot of research on, like, stomas and ileostomy bags. And in my mindset, I had a focus, and that was rematching Jimmy Sweeney, because there was talks of a rematch. I already beat him once, and there was talks of a rematch. So I was like, right, I'm going to rematch Jimmy next year. And it ended up obviously going through a lot of rehab with my stomach. And I think a month after surgery, I was in my garden just punching a punch bag, and I could only just started to walk again. And there I was trying to train, and I ripped my stomach open again, like, from training. And I had a few complications with surgery, and I ended up getting rushed back in again for another surgery. So I got rushed in. The surgeon, like, they did it there and then on the day. And I was awake for the surgery as well, and it was horrendous. And that was the worst. The second surgery was worse than the first.
Why are you awake for the surgery?
I think because it was COVID or something to do with COVID.
Right.
I don't understand why I was awake, but they gave me an epidural in the back and just sedated me. But the first surgery was 9 hours, and the second surgery it was only about 3. But it was the worst surgery because I was severely sick with a blockage. If you eat certain foods, you get stuck in you can't break it down. So I've got to be careful what I eat. If it's nuts, seeds, like chewy steak, I've got to be careful because it won't come out the stomach and it'll just get blocked. So when you have a blockage, if you leave it, it'll just burst inside as well. So you get rushed to hospital. You're violently sick, like really badly sick. Just loads of stomach acid in there, just turning, and I ended up getting rushed in, getting tubes down my throat. Like it was the worst time. Like a week, no food. After surgery, the second time, they was giving me like oral painkillers, like morphine and stuff, and that was going straight into like an empty stomach, and it just made me worse. And it was the worst time.
Because with those blockages, if it can't come out through the bag, it can end up coming up, can't it?
Yeah, that's why you're violently sick.
Is that what it is? So you can literally end up shitting out your mouth.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah, if it gets to that stage and it was just like green stuff just coming out, it was the worst ever.
You can clearly tell what you've told us there. Like, you've clearly got the fighter's mentality. You know, when you kept saying you kept ignoring your body and you just kept pushing on, you were hitting the bag when you couldn't even walk properly and all the rest of it. For the people listening or watching, I think it's important because there may be people who are going through UC or something like that, or some kind of inflammatory bowel disease or whatever it may be. You said you were ignoring the signs and stuff. What were those signs? When you look back now, what kind of signs did you have that you thought, actually, maybe you were ill? Because I think when you're training, you do kind of block it out, don't you? Because you want the bigger goal. What kind of things were you missing?
It was just like waking up just absolutely like a zombie every day. I was pale. I had no energy at all. I was just so fatigued. Losing a lot of blood as well from the toilet. And obviously when you're strained on toilet, going 30 times a day, and a lot of times you're not even going, you're just losing blood. It's fatiguing, and obviously I can't eat certain foods as well, so I can't really perform in training as much. I'm just not getting the amount of nutrients I need, and just constantly ill all the time. And obviously it's an autoimmune disease, so I'm constantly getting like tonsillitis, I'm getting all these little illnesses, and if you've got an autoimmune disease, you get like a little common cold, you get it like 10 times as bad. So I was just constantly ill all the time, pushing through training.
Now, obviously, you've had the surgery and stuff, certainly the second surgery. How do you manage to kind of combat that? Obviously, you've had the bag fitted. I am assuming because they've removed the large intestine or the bowel, ultimately all the ulcers that were in there are gone. Now, I don't want to get too graphic because I know it's not about, it's not an NHS podcast, but it's about certainly trying to help people who may have signs and symptoms. Like, I remember times when I've passed blood, gone to the toilet, and the first thing you do is you wipe out, don't you? You think, what's that? Was there a time when you knew it was worse? Do you know what I mean? Were you like, actually, I'm losing a lot of blood? Or was it just a case of I don't feel well?
Yeah, it was a lot of bad bloating, like stomach cramps was insane. Like, I couldn't even get up and walk. I was just leaning forward. And these are the little signs. Obviously, losing blood, feeling fatigued all the time, running to the toilet, and a lot of bad cramping in the stomach, a lot of bloatedness, just not feeling normal, just not really functioning properly. And since it was the bad stomach pains, it felt like my stomach was going to burst. Like, that's how bad it was, yeah. It was horrendous.
And were you not scared of wanting to fight again? You know, when you said you were hitting the bag and in the bottom of your garden and this, that, and the other, were you scared of that, or not, like thinking I could actually do more damage here? Like, you've been given a second chance by having the bag fitted. Was it not a case of, did you ever look at the other option and just quitting that?
No, I never did, no. Never crossed my mind. Like, even when I was in hospital and the main surgeons come in and the specialists and said, look, the only thing I kept asking is like, look, you keep asking about fighting again. And they just says, look, this is not possible. Like, you're having life-changing surgery. You're having your whole bowels removed. If you take an impact to your stomach, your intestines are just going to fall out everywhere. Because my intestines out my stomach by a couple of inches. And sometimes with a lot of impact, it can like rip the skin around it. So your intestine can like fall out, or it can rupture inside. So this is what all I was saying, but I kind of just like, as I was saying it all I was thinking about is fighting. It was just a big blur, and I was just like, nah, you're saying that, but I'm going to be fighting again. I think, like I said, my drive's too strong.
Mm-hmm.
And with my mindset will get, I'm surprised I haven't got me killed already, but that's just the way I am. It's just something inside us can't refuse to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says no, I've just got to do it. And yeah, it was a scary time. I mean, at first, like my partner was saying, look, there's other things you can do. And I was just like, no, this is the only thing I want to do. There's nothing else. Like, I was born to fight, and I was born to train and coach. Like, there's nothing else. There's no other option. Like, I can't do anything else. It's just this. This is all I'm good at.
When you go to have a bare knuckle fight, how does that compare to doing something like MMA or Muay Thai or something like that? Like, is there a different level of adrenaline needed or mindset needed, or is it all the same game to you?
Yeah, with bare knuckle boxing, obviously there's just one discipline, which is boxing, where mixed martial arts has multiple disciplines. Mixed martial arts, there's that many different scenarios and there's that much training you need to do, different disciplines. It's a little bit different to boxing. And then obviously you've got your boxing with gloves on as well, which is, yeah, boxing's a very hard sport. You can cover up a little bit with the gloves on, where bare knuckle you can't cover up. You've just got, it's a lot faster pace and you've got there's nowhere to hide. Do you know what I mean? You can't really hide in gloves either because you're going to get found out, but you can cover up a bit and take a bit. But then bare knuckle is just like a little bit sharper to the, yeah, it's a lot more, it's a little bit different. I mean, they're all very hard sports, but they're just a few little different tweaks. I think with bare knuckle, you just get that free feeling without the gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot more adrenaline, a lot more exciting. And I believe people like to watch bare knuckle more because there's a lot more like damage. There's a lot more. It's more real to a fight. Do you know what I mean? Like a normal street fight.
I know this sounds mad, like saying it to a bare knuckle boxer, but I think personally you've got to have a bit of a screw loose to do it. Like, I know that sounds mad, and I don't mean that in any way of disrespect, but like, you know, when I watch boxing or I watch even MMA to a degree, I understand it's like a blood sport, and it's with bare knuckle. When I watch bare knuckle fighters, I think you have just got another level of where you're at in your mind, because I feel like you want the blood, do you get what I'm saying? Because the discipline is boxing, so you have the option to box, but to do it kind of pretty much without gloves, like, I feel like, is that something you search for? Do you like blood? Do you like that type of?
Definitely, yeah. That's one thing. Obviously, when you're covered in blood in a fight, it just makes the fight a lot better. I don't know. It's a weird feeling, but like you get a massive shot and you're just having a tear up in a fight. I think it does take a different kind of mindset. You know, some people don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of pro boxers I've asked, and they've said about bare knuckle, really good boxers as well, and they just would not do it because the mindset of just getting into a bare knuckle fight and feeling like a knuckle bone onto your skull. It's just, you know what I mean? It's a little bit different. I mean, yeah, it's just that blood feeling as well. Like you're covered in blood, it just makes everything better.
It's the way you say there, the bare knuckle to the skull. Like, even terms like that, like, boxers don't experience that, do they? So
No.
It's like, for you to say that, obviously it's something that you thrive off in them environments, which again, it kind of shows how you are mentally and the stuff that you've had to overcome. I think the fact that you're a bare knuckle boxer shows how you were able to overcome the things that you had, because I do feel like some other people would have crumbled in them scenarios, or maybe he's not wanted the bag, or, do you know, you just got, not only did you get the bag, you wanted to fight again, so it kind of showed your mindset and where you're at. What do you think of those other disciplines in terms of boxing and MMA and stuff like that? Like, do you think they're easy in comparison? Not so much MMA, more boxing. Would you think that if you got into a ring, just put some gloves on now, do you think you'd be fine? Do you think you'd find it easy? Do you think you'd find it boring?
No, definitely not easy. Boxing with gloves on is probably I think it's one of the toughest sport going. It's tougher than bare knuckle, I believe.
Do you think?
I believe because there's bare knuckle, you've got nowhere to hide. Like, you take a shot, you're going to get knocked out. But boxing, you can cover up, and you're just going to constantly get damaged. Like, and there's a lot more rounds, and it's longer rounds as well. And it's hard to get through with boxing gloves. It's more of a bare knuckle. You can kind of get away with brawling. There's loads of different styles you can swing in. There's loads of, like, my style is more for bare knuckle more than boxing. Like, boxing's like, there's a lot more skill towards it. I mean, bare knuckle is at a high level, but you can kind of get away with just swinging in. You know what I mean? There's a lot of bare knuckle fighters at high level that are not good boxers. They're just brawlers, and they're just they just love a scrap. Where boxing is just an art, and you've got to be top 1% in the world. You've got to be unbelievable.
I asked UFC fighter Davey Grant when he was on the podcast how he would feel in kind of a street situation if you came up against someone on the street. When you do bare knuckle, although of course there's a skill involved, do you feel like someone on the street could compete with you who hadn't been into bare knuckle because it is just a brawl? Or do you feel like you're still on a different level to the average street fighter?
Complete different level, yeah. I mean, if a normal person, you know, was trying to set about you, and I think with all the years of MMA background, professional MMA, like, I'm happy to go on the floor, I'm happy to stand up, I'm happy where it goes, you know what I mean? And it's just completely different. I mean, even if a pro boxer has never done bare knuckle and he meets you on the street, that range difference is massive. Because a lot of people try and get into it, so I get the small gloves on, 4-ounce MMA gloves, and they try and box with 4-ounce gloves on, and they just can't reach you because it's a lot of difference, you know, with the gloves on, without the gloves.
So who wins then, boxer versus bare knuckle boxer?
All depends on who it is.
Does it?
I'd say it depends on who it is, and
so they're both as good as each other.
I'd say, yeah, I don't. It's all different. I don't know. A boxer obviously just trains to box. Bare knuckle fighter trains, you know, for a bit of a brawl, and there's more. It's more street wise, I suppose. It's, you know, more realistic to a street. Where bare knuckle MMA, that's different as well.
Do you ever get tested on the street? You know, like for having a name for yourself and stuff, and doing what you've done in the sport, and all the things you've achieved, and even when you've obviously fought Jimmy Sweeney and that, and people recognise you, oh, there's the lad. Because when you're known for something, especially fighting, you're gonna get a lot of lads who think they can throw a few digs at you. Have you ever had that?
I've never had it, touch wood. No, I've never had any problems on the street. I mean, Gainsborough's a small town, and I've got a lot of people who's got respect for me just from what I've been through and stuff, and I help a lot of people out, and I'm a nice guy. I'm not an idiot. I don't go around causing trouble. I run a gym and help a lot of people out as well. I just keep myself to myself, so I don't go out and look for trouble. I don't get in them situations where I'm going to get in trouble. So,
and I think that's kind of part of the reason why I asked the question, because I'm here, I'm at your gym now, unbelievable place. I see a lot of the work that you're doing for these people as well, and I think when you're putting that much good in the world, I can see the respect that you'd get. Clearly, obviously, I've met you. You're a lovely bloke, but I think to other people who just see the blood and the scrapping in the ring and all that type of stuff, I wonder how many local lads think, how tough is he? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know if that happens everywhere. I don't know if it happens with boxers, but I think with bare knuckle, it's so close to, again, like you say, a street fight or a brawl on the street. I feel like, is there more competition with normal people who probably haven't got a clue what they're doing? But
yeah, 100%. I've always thought of it, you know, if I ever go out, because my partner always says, you know, if you go out, if someone tries testing you, you've got to learn to back off, because I can't afford to get in trouble. I'll be getting in trouble more than them.
Yeah.
Because I'm a trained fighter. So, but yeah, like I say, there are always going to be people out there test you, and a lot of people just see my ears and just think, nah, I'm not going near that.
You said, obviously, again there about a lot of people try to test you and stuff. What would you say, Rico, up until this point in your life and career, what's the biggest test you've had?
Biggest test was coming through adversity, like when I lost my mother, I'd say 10 years ago, coming up to 10 years, and then obviously having life-changing bowels, did surgery. I think that's two of them things, probably, I'd say.
Do you mind asking how did that happen? Do you remember where you were and stuff when you lost your mother? Was that, because obviously, again, it's clear to say that she was a big support on how you are as a character, how you've turned out, your career. How did that kind of happen?
So she was ill for a long time. It's like I kind of got her genes, if you know what I mean, like the deficiency in the genetic genes. I kind of got my mum's side, where my brother got my dad's side, and he's never ill. But my mum was like always constantly ill as well, and she had like a very rare disease. It was like 1 in a million disease it was, and she was just suffering for a long time, and then ended up just in hospital for months in Sheffield, and then just got too much for her organs, and the time they found out what it was just too late. So But she was unbelievable. She used to help out everyone, caring person, did anything for us. And obviously, when you lose your best friend and your mum, it's life changing. I was about 20 years old, so
Right.
I didn't know what I wanted in life. I was going to Thailand training. I was wanting to be a fighter. I didn't, you was young and I just didn't really have a clue what I was doing. But ever since that happened, it just made me a new person. And everything I do, I kind of just do it for my mum now. I just think I struggled a lot with grieving at first. I was in bad places, and I don't know how I stayed on track, but I think it was the passion and the drive for competing and my love for the sport. I kind of used my mother just to fuel me in the right direction. Instead of using it in the wrong direction, people can go off the rails. I kind of use it in the right direction, use it to fuel all my training. And when I come back from surgery, it was lockdown and I got a turbo on a bike and I got Zwift set up in my room on the bike. So I was using that and I was doing triathlon training for a while. And what got me through surgery was thinking about my mum and I was just thinking, look, could be worse. And there's a lot of people dying next to me in hospital. So I was looking at them thinking, look, I'm not one of these guys. I'm not dying. I could always have it worse than I've got. And I used to think of my mum. What would my mum say to me right now? I seen her on her deathbed, going through some bad shit, with tubes in her neck, pins, everywhere. It was horrendous. And every time I think of that moment, just pushed me through. And every time I was in pain or feeling sorry for myself, I used to just snap out of it and think, what my mum's going to do right now? She's not here to help me. So I kind of used it as fuel and motivation. That's definitely what got me through.
It's unbelievable to see that you've used it for a positive, as much as a tragic event like that, losing your mum, obviously a 20-year-old as a young lad, mate. Sorry to hear that, mate. It's horrible. But did they ever find out what it was?
Yeah, it was called histiocytosis. It's a long name, but it's a very rare disease. And it's more on children or men than women. So
right.
For her to get it is crazy, and they had to get a treatment from America to get sent over, but it was far too late by the time they got that, because they was just testing. They didn't know fully what it was. They just kept saying it was cancer. They just kept giving her chemo treatments, just testing loads of shit on her. And by the time that happened, it just too much for all her organs and everything, and it all had just shut down in the end.
Was your dad in the picture at all?
Yeah, my dad was in the picture. My dad's always been. He's been a hard-working man all his life. He was from Portugal, so he had a little different way of living and approaching life. We never used to see eye to eye properly all the time, because we used to clash because we were both very stubborn. My dad was a very disciplined man as well, and he was very harsh on us when we was kids. But when I look back now, I think, if he wasn't harsh and disciplined like he was, sometimes a bit too much, but I look back and think, if it weren't for him being the way he was, I won't be where I am now.
I was going to say, because the name Rico Franco, like I said earlier, is a bit of a sexy name, that, isn't it? Go to the Portuguese side where you get.
Yeah, it's the old Portuguese Mediterranean side. So yeah, from the way he was, I always respect him for that, being harsh as he was and having that discipline.
I know you said, obviously you've used the losing your mum as a positive thing, but I know that, I think I watched it somewhere, that there was a time when that could have been the wrong choice. When didn't you use that funeral music to walk out to a fight as well?
Yeah,
you had a bit of a wobble then as well.
Yeah, so that was in the prize fighter final. I ended up getting through to the final. I think I had 3 fights in 6 months or something. It was non-stop, or 9 months. I can't remember. It was 3 months between each fight camp, or 2, and my hand was broke as well. So I managed to win fights with a broken hand, but we got to the final and everything was good. Something didn't feel right, so I put my mum's funeral song on just before I walked out, and it didn't want the best idea. My brother was there as well, and he just looked at me and just hit me a little bit. So I was a bit wobbly as I walked out, but then, I just, in the back of my mind, I was never losing that fight, and the fight went 7 2-minute rounds. Went the full distance, and that was a slugfest.
Is it always 2-minute rounds, Bareknuckle?
Yeah, 2-minute rounds. Yeah.
How do you feel when you're in a fight?
Um,
What goes through your mind? I don't even mean anything to do with the things you've been through, just as a
Yeah.
fighter in bare knuckle. How do you feel when you're in that ring?
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches, and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
Tunnel vision, just fully focused. I kind of get myself in the mindset where, I'm looking at my opponent and I'm just thinking of my opponent, nothing else. All the distractions are gone. And I'm just in a tunnel vision, just thinking this guy's getting his head taken off.
Mm-hmm.
And not just brawling way. Like I'm not just going to go in and go crazy. I've got a plan, and I'm going to stick to that plan. And all I ever think of is how good I am and how good in training I am, and how good my abilities are. And when I go into a fight, I just think, like, this guy's getting it. There's no other option. Like, there's no way I'm winning this fight. There's no other way but a win. And I think it's that tunnel vision. Like, I just go in thinking, like, I'm a savage, and that's it. And that's all that goes through my mind.
Is there ever a time when you kind of go off plan, or you don't listen to the value you've been getting from Danny Mitchell and the lads around you? Is there ever a time when you remember when you think you just went your ends?
Yeah, there has been times. That prize fighter final,
Right.
that was a time where they weren't really I couldn't really box James because he was an awkward fighter. It was very tough. He kept bending down a lot, and I couldn't really get my shots going. So I ended up just turning it into a bit of a brawl. And sometimes you've got to, if the plan A is not going down the window, you just got to switch it and just turn it into a brawl sometimes. Yeah, and it worked. But
With how long have you had the bag on?
it's 3 years now.
3 years. So, and have you fought with it on?
Yeah, I've had about 6 fights with it on now. Yeah.
But when you fought Sweeney, you didn't have it on, did you?
The first fight with Jimmy, I didn't have no. It was a year after I had surgery. So the rematch with Jimmy, I had the bag on. That was the first one back.
So it's mind blowing shit. This, right? So the reason I'm asking you that is, so all through your fighting career, you've had colitis, and have kind of avoided it, and all the rest of it. Obviously, you've had that year of remission when you had them 4 fights. But when all them years, ultimately, you'll have had all kinds of inflammation. The training will have added the inflammation. You probably weren't getting the nutrition. Certain things you couldn't eat. You didn't know it was colitis or whatever, or you were avoiding at the time. So you had a full career fighting with colitis, but not optimally, and still managed to pull off what you did, which is fucking blows me mind. But then secondly, you then get the bag on. I'm assuming you feel better because you don't have that problem anymore. Is it easier to fight with the bag on or when you didn't have it on?
Definitely with it on, yeah.
It's that even that is mad, isn't it? It's easier to fight with the bag on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, without the bag and the colitis, and the amount of times I've been warming up with Danny and I've been running to the toilet, shitting blood basically, and he's like, "Are you sure you want to fight? You don't look good." Like, I'm there just like covered in a rash from the treatment. I'm just absolutely in a mess. And a lot of times, my partner, she'll just be like, "You shouldn't be fighting," but she knows how I am, so she leaves me to it. She knows what my mindset's like, and there's no other option. Like, I just need to fight. And yeah, like I say, I'm surprised I'm not dead from it yet, but definitely with the bag, I ain't got all that cramping, running to the toilet. I ain't got to worry about that. The only thing that could happen is it could rupture in a fight and intestines go everywhere. But
the only thing.
But I don't think of it. Never crosses my mind once ever. I forget the bag's there. To be fair.
And do they still advise you now to not fight?
I don't speak to them. I've not been to the doctors or NHS or the specialist in years.
So, I'm assuming you're allowed to fight with a bag on, because I think it's happened before in boxing on it, but I don't know about bare knuckle.
Yeah, I think it happened in America once. That's where I first ever seen a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was fighting pro boxing, and I don't think he told the boxing board. And by the end, he won like a little belt. And by the end of the fight, he showed everyone he's got a bag, and everyone was like, "What the hell? This is crazy." And that was the first ever time I ever seen it in America. But yeah, there's no other. I don't think there's anyone else really.
This is just my curiosity now. I think like it's one of them things, isn't it? I think because people with bags, there's not many people who've got them. I mean, I've actually met quite a few. I've worked with a few lads who've had them and stuff. Different types of things going on through Crohn's and other things. Do you get any flack for it? Do you get any funny looks? Do you get anyone kind of questioning, like, should you be doing what you're doing? Like, other than people who care about you, I mean, just from randomers, do you get anything like that?
Not really. Only sometimes if I go swimming or if I'm on holiday. Obviously, I've never seen anyone on holiday yet with a bag, but I'm always sunbathing. I'm out. Don't bother me at all. But obviously, I'd say the only time it really affected me a bit, I went to a water park I think it was in Tenerife, and obviously waiting in queues, and everyone was just like, obviously kids are kids, so they all are staring, like some of them are laughing, and at first I'm like, hang on, this was like raw as well, so it was only like a year after, and it was the first time I probably went out in public with it properly, obviously only at Leisure Centre in Gainsborough, but yeah, it kind of like hit me a bit, and I was just like, I was trying to figure it out, but ever since then, it don't ever bother me. Like I just walk around proud of it, but no one's really said much about it. To be fair,
to be fair, mate, I think they're taking one look at your lugs. I'm not going to say that. Do you kind of do you feel like having that on now is it made you more accepting to other people, or were you always like that anyway? Do you know what I mean? Like, because ultimately when you go through something like that, like for some people it might be, you mix race, so you understand, good chance you're probably not going to be racist or whatever. Do you feel like because you've had to suffer that, does it make you look at other people differently?
Yeah, I've always kind of been like that, but definitely does open it up a little bit. Yeah, definitely for any other thing, not just the bag, but for everything else. And you don't know what people's going through. Do you know what I mean? Mentally, so you just kind of got to think, I don't know what's going through this guy's mind or this person's mind. So you kind of just got to. Yeah, I don't know, it's a strange one. You just got to not look at it in different ways and not like think of it in, it's hard to explain, like not think of it in like a bad situation all the time, but yeah, it's a strange one.
Well, I think I know it's easy for me to say, but like it's just a bag.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there's no change to you. You're still doing everything. It's not like there's worse things. Like, I get it, it's bad to you. I'm not taking that away from you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a bit with one leg and all this type of stuff, or worse still. So ultimately, you're here. You're
that's
fit,
that's what gets me through. Obviously, I think someone's always got it worse. I can still compete. I've just got a bag on my stomach and intestine hanging out. That's it. I've still got.
It's still the way you see it, though.
I've still got my legs. I've got my arms. I've got my brain. So you know what I mean. It's things could be worse.
Do you, just pure curiosity, this mate? Do you know when you're going? When you're going to the toilet?
Yeah, half the time I don't know. Unless it can get a bit swollen now and again. If I eat something that doesn't agree with me, like I don't break it down. If I eat some nuts or eat something that's hard to break down, it kind of cramps up a little bit. But other than that, I never feel it day to day. I don't know when I'm going.
You got kids in that?
No, I've 2 dogs I had, but one passed away before Christmas. So I've got the 1 dog now, 2 rescues. Yeah.
Do you want kids or all they are?
Yeah, I do and I don't.
Yeah.
We're still young. I got married last year, and we both definitely want a kid. I want a little lad. I mean, I can't pick and choose, but I've always wanted a lad. Women are hard work, but yeah, we definitely do. But we never know when the time's right. I think we'll just go with the flow, and when it happens, it'll happen. We just love our holidays too much, but
I think I don't think there is ever a right time. I think me and my partner, we were a bit like that. Like, when's the right time to do it? Then when COVID happened, we're like, do you know what? Like, the world can change tomorrow. Like, what's the point in?
Yeah, exactly.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think everything happens for a reason. So I've not had a kid yet, just for a reason. I'm going to win the BKFC belt, and then I'll probably have a kid.
And that's what I want to ask. What is the future for you, Rico? Like, what do you want to do now? Is that what you want to do? Win the BKFC title, and then.
So last fight was last June, and I headlined BKFC in UK. They sent an American over, number 3 in the world, Caleb Harris. He was one of the biggest names in sport as well. He's never been stopped in a fight. I don't think he's ever been dropped in a fight, and I kind of just walked through him, and I dropped him 8 times, and I finished him in the last round, and, you know, I made a massive statement. Now I've moved up to number 3 in the world just from 3 fights in the Bareknuckle FC. And it's an American organisation, so it's massive in America.
Mm-hmm.
That was my 11th Bareknuckle fight, due to cross promotions as well from the BKB. So obviously, the next fight, I've signed a contract. It should be in America next. So I'm just waiting. It's been a long time waiting, but next one will be in America. Obviously, all different states, the athletic commission, a lot of them are different, and some of them won't be able to sign me off medically with the bag because they're quite strict. So I've just got to see where I can fight in what state and stuff. So hopefully, end of the year, we'll get that title shot, or we'll maybe get one more than the title shot.
Unbelievable, mate. I'm sure you will as well. You've clearly got the right mindset, the right determination to go on to do them things. Again, just hoping that the board's going to let that sort of get sanctioned and go for it, mate. With that being said, do you have like an end date to your career? I know that sounds mad because you are only, I mean, people are fighting bare knuckle in their 40s, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? Like,
yeah, a lot of bare knuckle fighters, it's like the end of the career. Like, they've had a career in UFC, pro boxing. They kind of like finished the career off doing a bit of bare knuckle. And there's a lot of massive names in it now, but a lot of people are just going straight into bare knuckle because it's getting massive.
it's like the start of the UFC in a way, isn't it?
It is. It's huge, and you know, there's a lot of money being pumped into it, and it's going over to the Middle East now. Like the Saudi are looking into it. They're gonna get it sanctioned out there. So yeah, it's definitely growing massive. And you know, I don't know when I mean, it's coming up to like probably the end of the career. I've had a lot of trauma to the brain. Probably had 80 odd fights in total, and not just the fights, but all the sparring as well. There's a lot of, it's taking its toll. And I've had a few bad concussions as well, so I've had a nice little break.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say as soon as I win that title, I'd be happy, but then I'm never happy. And I can see me going till I'm 50, but my brain can't take much more, so I won't have a choice. Until I've got no choice to fight, I'll just keep going.
And when you do get Rico Jr., when he comes along, would you advise this to him?
No, definitely not.
Why?
Not a chance, because I know how hard
if he's like you, though, Rico, and he's like, this is what I need something to keep us going, surely you'd understand. So why wouldn't you?
I'd understand, but I'd try and take him down another route, like in another sport, nothing like head trauma, because I know the head trauma is just too bad, and I wouldn't want to see my kid do the same thing. I'd definitely, teach my kid the martial arts, self-defense. He could be able to defend himself. And don't get me wrong, I'd let him have a few fights if that's what he wanted to do, but I'd not force him to do fighting or anything like that, because I know how hard it is, and there's not much money in it. And to get to the top, it's a lot of trauma and a lot of hard work, and it's, not many people can get there. So all depends on what he wants to be. Mm-hmm. He might want to do ballet dancing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I think that's the thing. He's going to look at obviously a great role model in his dad and the things that you've had to overcome, and obviously helping other people now, young people coming to the gyms, and give them a discipline, keep them off the streets. Kind of ultimately, mate, without the head trauma, if we can get people through it, you're giving them a discipline, somewhere to channel their energy, keep them out of trouble. And I think it's unbelievable stuff. I really do. And I think again, whether it's bare knuckle, MMA, boxing, whatever the discipline is, I think ultimately if you can keep people positive in the mind, that matters more than anything else, mate.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it is, yeah.
But Rico, I want to say thank you for coming on, mate. I feel like I could just chat to you for fucking ages, because there's so much I want to talk about, at the same time I don't want to just skim it. Do you know what I mean? So I want to thank you for your time, mate. It's appreciated.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.
So if you've enjoyed this conversation and you like things like this, make sure you click up there and watch this episode.